We're back here with the Asia Pacific Hearthstone Grandmasters, and we've got yet another match for you coming up. Match number 2 of 6 today. We've got one extra match as we do on Sundays, as always, as is the theme. But we've got FroStee versus Alutemu coming up next, and it's going to be FroStee on this mage. So let's take a look. Not his mage, his hunter. I'm talking rubbish. Let's take a look at his mech hunter, and let's just we did see this yesterday, but let's just go over this again, language hacker, because he's running a few different cards.
Yeah. So different from the standard mech hunter list you might have seen on ladder, FroStee's opting to run 2 mechanical whelps in here as well as Houndmaster Shaw. Everything else seems kind of cookie cutter, what we've already seen, but the mechanical whelp adds an extra bit of gas. It can help you a bit later on, which is one of the problems the mech hunter can run into against any deck that goes past turn 7 or 8. We've seen it kind of run out of gas in the past, so we'll see if the mechanical whelps help with that. The only downside to them is that they're a little slow. When you play it, it is a 2/2, so it does require a turn before coming active if you want to trade it off or activate it with, like, say, a Fireworks tech. Otherwise, I think FroStee wanted to bring this to kind of target mage, but we've seen, at least from yesterday, that Mech Hunter has not had the best time against mage, so we'll see if that works out for him today. Yeah,
it really hasn't. Mech Hunter, its main power is being able to just keep building on top of the board. Instead of going wide, you just keep adding, magnetized mechs on top of each other to create really, really scary minions. But the problem is mage, especially with the evolutions in how it's built, is continuing to be more and more freeze focused. So it's just, okay, you've got effectively 4 Ray of Frost minimum to get through. Maybe a Frost Nova, some Snap Freezes at some players' lists, and also with the amount of cards you discover as well, there are plenty more freeze cards available every given game. So I do think FroStee does have his work out for him a little bit, because the more I see this, the more I feel like Mech Hunter is not the best deck overall to take on Mage. But Alutemu's Mage, on the other hand, did pretty well so far. He took a 2-0 win over Surrender as well. So let's check out his list and see what it's got to give here. This one looks a little bit more standard with a few more just, the one-off style of tech.
Right, we see one of Vexcro, one of Rebel Bannister to help a little bit against aggro without fully committing some of the other slots to that. We do see Archmage Antonidas in the main list. Not many players have chosen to keep this in the main list. It helps versus Warrior, as we saw. It didn't quite work out last match, but
it could have.
It could have, right. And even against other matchups, if you happen to go, back and forth, and like no player is super far ahead on the board, just an Antonidas with like an image can just seal out the game against some decks too. So yeah. I don't hate that in the main list. Otherwise, 2 Banana Buffoons, Luna, again, no Sandbinders in Alutemu's list.
Yeah, I do like just the overall build where there is some late game, but not tons. There's decent early game, and for me, the 2 of Frost Novas are actually just decent because they're good in so many different matchups. It's not just it's only good against the aggro decks. It's like it's good against any board-centric deck, and especially good against Mech Hunter, which pretty much relies on the board to get anything realistic done in the game.
Right. There's a bit of burst that they have. We see FroStee isn't running Bomb Toss in his main list. So the real burst is just Magnetic Minions or Leroy. But if your opponent's if your board is frozen because of the mage, Magnetic doesn't have charge anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't really do the same level of power you're after, and the freezes are going to be coming in clutch here. But this matchup is pretty clutch for both players as well, because FroStee this week is 0-1, which means he needs to win this to just go 50-50. But most importantly, Alutemu is 1-0 so far. So if he wins this, and that's a clean week, which is what these players really want. They want as many just 2-0s as possible, because it just propels them further and further ahead. And the longer you go, 2-0 for, the more leeway you have towards the end of the season. It's very similar to almost playing out along Swiss, right? The more you win, the more likely it is that you can afford a loss.
You have a bit of a cushion near the end if you start off with a lot of wins versus it's much difficult to get past through all the rounds of Swiss, for example, if you haven't really lost.
Right, and it's not quite the same because these players are playing round robin. They will play everyone, but it's still just that a little bit more pressure, and pressure builds up. And there will be a point that, depending on if some players do really badly in the first, half of the weeks, I am sure there will be a point where they literally cannot qualify
anymore, right?
And they have to just play for just as good a spot in the league as possible, and just try and put themselves as high up within their division, just to be able to just keep that momentum going into Season 2. But let's get into it. Game number 1 between FroStee and Alutemu. FroStee on the Mech Hunter, Alutemu on the Cyclone Mage. And again, just FroStee has it, it's just really weird to talk about Mech Hunter mulligans, because it's unlikely that you have a bad mulligan in terms of just mana cost.
Right.
But it's likely you can have a bad mulligan. Like, I would say this is not the best mulligan in the world, because tracking, you would rather that just be a playable minion.
Sure.
And Venomizer is much more of a reactive card than it is a on-curve turn 2 play. So FroStee, I think, is really after something to actually play before turn 3.
You might even have to just play it on 2.
Right? That's what I mean. You really don't want to, but
yeah,
might be forced into it.
Alutemu choosing to toss Pack Mountain Giant in his mulligan, but keeping Arcane Intellect, Ray of Frost, Mana Cyclone. So Alutemu looks like he does know what this matchup is all about. It's not always the case that you can just play a Giant with like past Arcane Intellect, just have it out on curve. So he's opting to go for the Mana Cyclone route, try to get some Ray of Frost in there. Basically go for tempo instead of waiting for the Giant to be able to come down.
Galvanize is going to make this hand look a lot better than it did, though.
Definitely hitting 4 minions too.
And the fact that it just 4 minions that curve into each other as well is huge.
This also allows for a bit of flexibility if FroStee wants to, say, go Venomizer and or Citron this turn. He may not want to, but
he could.
Exactly. Now team opting for the classic mage turn 2.
just the ping pass. Replicating Menace is kind of going to negate a lot of that ping.
Yep.
And also going to start pushing damage here.
At 2 health, it is possible to take that down with 2 Ray of Frost, but
just
Death
feels
Rattle,
bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Death Rattle pops out 2 3/1/1s, so you're not really removing that much on the board if you do double Ray of Frost. Alutemu has the option of going Banana Buffoon or Arcane Intellect. With the Cyclone in hand, having extra 1 mana spells doesn't hurt, but I believe you might want to just find like an Elemental Vacation or Sorcerer's Apprentice as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Arcane Intellect here, but he's debating whether or not it's more important to just throw out the 2/2 and hope that if there's no Magnetic from FroStee, the 2/2 can trade into the Galvanizer here.
Yeah, so in this matchup, I feel like you definitely need something proactive to do as the mage. It's all good and well clearing stuff off, but every single turn you take a little bit of damage or hero power here and there. It starts to get more eager and eager that you do need something to actually kill your opponent with. We've seen some games where, especially against Hunter, where the mage just about stabilizes, but they're on like 6 health, and then they just die anyway. They can't actually push enough damage fast enough. But I do like this from FroStee.
Yep.
Hit them for 7. Go.
There's a 7-4 on board. It's turn 4. So one interaction that the Conjurer's Calling Mage has against huge magnetic minions is the original minion that all the magnetized mechs were attached to. If its mana cost is cheap, you can Conjurer's Calling to make a 7/4 like a 2/2 and a 3/2, for example. Not always necessarily better, but if it gets big enough, then the Conjurer's Calling can definitely whittle it down a notch. Or 2.
Yeah. I think here it's a tough call, right? Because I think the turn is good, or the play is good, but when it takes up most of your turn, then you don't have much follow-up. There is, Ray of Frost coin, Ray of Frost, I guess, is available, which means you can probably kill off something, but it looks like Alutemu was waiting to put it on the Buffoon.
Yeah, I mean, with 2 Ray of Frost in hand and a Frost Nova, I don't think it's quite time to Conjurer's Calling your opponent's Galvanizer yet. I think you want to try to spread out and get a bigger board yourself before trying to clean that up. It's still possible on the following turn if he wants to do that, but having more minions on board to help him clear what comes out of the Conjurer's Calling and the Galvanizer helps.
The real big problem now is we can see Explodinator in hand for FroStee, which means that the board suddenly goes wide for him, and suddenly Ray of Frost just isn't a good enough answer because he will still take damage every turn. And the big thing is this Galvanizer has Taunt and Divine Shield, so for Alutemu to get through, he has to get through it before he deals with any other minions.
FroStee picks up a Spider Bomb. Not quite what he wants in this scenario, but can be useful later on. Obviously, it's magnetic as well, so it could be used to push some damage. Not this turn, seeing as his Galvanizer is frozen. Could throw down the Explodinator. I think if he wants to develop something, he'd rather play the Urstron Hero Power. You get to weave in a ping, obviously, with Hero Power. The Explodinator can be played later as well. You're putting about the same amount of power on the board, but more bombs, which can help Alutemu set up a Mountain Giant or the one of Rabble Bouncer. And I don't think you want to...
I think you actually go Explodinator this turn, because it puts more stuff on the board, and the problem is, FroStee should know that Alutemu has the 2 Ray of Frost in hand, because he's seen 2 of them cast.
No, he's the only one.
Oh, has he? I thought he froze it twice.
Nope. This is
Oh,
the
I'm
first time
going
it was
crazy.
frozen.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was confused because it looked like, for me, I thought Alutemu had played the 2 separate Ray of Frosts to keep his hand size big. But then it also tells your opponent that you have 2 Ray of Frost back, so...
Yeah, the one on the left is still a twin spell. Use the one on the right.
Okay, I'll take it all back then. Because if you knew there was double freeze, you'd want to go wider, right? To be able to magnetize stuff after.
With the information that there's only 1 Ray of Frost, I think this is fine, though.
Yep.
Now he's going to find out that Alutemu does indeed have both copies of Ray of Frost. Continues to freeze the board here. And Mana Cyclones to get some rerolls. Okay, those
not
aren't terrible. Research Project, not exactly what Alutemu wants. Sure, you get deeper into your deck, but you don't want to give the Mech Hunter more gas. The Scorch is useful. You played him a Cyclone last turn, so that is going to be 1 mana this turn. And the image, the mirror images don't hurt either.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to have mirror image against an aggro matchup. Yep. But like you're starting to see now, FroStee hasn't really done much damage apart from that 1 big Galvanizer swing. But Alutemu's on 17. So, you know, one turn or 2 turns longer, and he's going to be really under a lot of threat here.
The thing is, even if Alutemu manages to like get through this board, FroStee does have the Missile Launcher Venomizer emergency button. Just 7 mana, clear the whole board. Deal 1 damage to your opponent's face. Maybe clean up some bombs on your side that do some extra damage. If Alutemu gets through this, I expect we would probably see FroStee play the Boommaster Flark first, just to get some extra bombs on the board.
Right.
From Alutemu's perspective, so you definitely want to use Scorch this turn. You don't have other elementals in your hand, at least. You have some in the deck, but that's going to be much more difficult to use later on. Could even use Frost Nova. You could bump the Cyclone in. Okay. Freezing that first, drawing a bit. Banana Buffoon, not quite what else you want. There we go. Oh, okay. So Sea Giant's useful here. We need to not forget that there is a Spider Bomb in that Galvanizer, so you want to play the Giant after. Okay.
Just about got the turn off, I think.
Yeah, I believe he hit the Explodinator. Good. Alright, so he's going to take some damage this turn, but he did manage to deal with some of the most threatening parts of FroStee's board. That being said, FroStee still has, you know, 4 minions that can attack and 2 bombs that can be magnetized as well.
I wonder if he goes for the big play now.
The Missile Launcher Venomizer?
Yeah, onto the Citron. Puts 2 1/1s into the 0, right. 2 1/1 into the Harvest Golem, and then just go phase. You push what? 6, 9, 10 to 13?
You push a lot. You do. FroStee does know that Alutemu has the second half of Conjurer's Calling, so if he is committing to magnetizing the Ursatron, the Conjurer's Calling is a bit easier to...
it's a 3-drop though.
3-drops aren't negligible, right? But I believe... Yeah,
so I think you want the damage, right?
Yeah, you want the magnetic damage, since Alutemu is low enough that this is very, very relevant, right?
I really like this play.
This way you push 9, an extra 1 from the missiles, and 2 for each bomb, a Goblin Bomb that dies this turn.
And also there's just Flark, Pass, which is lethal next
turn. Even if the Ursatron is frozen.
Yep.
The thing is, this is just lethal. Even if it's frozen, you can pass Hero Power when you get there.
There has to be an answer.
Yeah, Alutemu needs to find an answer for the Ursatron, and
no polymorph.
Yeah, Barrier's not quite going to cut it. I imagine if any secret comes down, FroStee will just play around the Ice Barrier because he has lethal set up. If the Ursatron is dealt with, he can just Hero Power over 2 turns.
He's going to have to Conjures.
Yeah. Difficult spot for Alutemu here. All the Rare Frosts are gone too. If he had Ziliax, he could consider playing it with the images just to heal up a little bit, but doesn't have that option.
Right, just going to concede there, and that's the problem, right? The concede might look strange because there was, say, Conjurer's Call in, Mirror Images, so to try and be safe even with Nova.
Right.
But the problem is, well, what then? You get Hero Powered twice and you're dead, and that's just the game. So FroStee getting the job done with that Hunter now, and that's kind of the game plan with Hunter and with Mech Hunter as well in this Mage matchup. You push damage early, and then even though we saw freeze after freeze after freeze, there was no counter push that was good enough.
Right.
The timely Venomancer Missile Launcher, of course, but that's why it's in the deck.
That's exactly
to do exactly what you just did with it. So not some kind of fluke or anything like that. So FroStee off to a good start here versus the matchup he did actually, or pretty much one of the matchups he wants. at 1-0. Is he going to take the series and put a win on the board for him? Find out after this.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars, because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
We're back with FroStee versus Alutemu here at the Hearthstone Grandmasters, and FroStee took an early game, or a quick game at least, with the Mech Hunter versus Alutemu's Mage, and he's pretty much just planning on doing almost the same again, right? That was almost a textbook way to win as Mech Hunter versus Mage.
Yeah, that's the game plan. Get out some early pressure, don't give the Mage enough time, and even by the time the Mage ends up drawing a few cards and it has something to do, if they are able to stabilize, you want them to be low enough that you can just ping them off over a few turns, or activate some bombs and finish them off that way.
Yeah, well, let's get straight into it as well. FroStee versus Alutemu, and they're off to a little bit of a better start here, just having at least a better opening hand initially to be able to put some pressure on Alutemu. FroStee does have that Galvanizer, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, Galvanizer, very powerful starting off, especially when you're on the coin. He does keep the Spider Bomb in conjunction with the Fireworks stack as a 4-mana clear after the Galvanizer. Won't clear 1 minion. It doesn't necessarily clear the board, but it could. Tracking on 1 instead of just coining out the Galvanizer. This means that the Galvanizer can hit more targets. Missile Launcher probably not going to be the pick. FroStee's decided if he wants the Venomizer or the Explodinator, and he does choose the Venomizer to set up for the Missile Launcher he already has in hand. And getting the Galvanizer reduction on both of these means that for 6 mana you can get the Poisonous Kill Everything package.
Right, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a second Galvanizer, Venomizer as well. So now he can be a bit more free with with one of the Venomizers.
Alutemu,
sorry, a lot of the time that combo doesn't really get recovered from that well that
it's
often.
very difficult,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't really come back onto the board most of the time without some, or at least taking a couple of turns.
Yeah, you can't just freeze it because you can, but then you can't develop anything because it just dies to the missile, the poison missiles. Alutemu starting off with an apprentice on 2, fighting for the board early, which is good. Was rewarded for it. Was able to kill off a galvanizer. Use the arcane intellect as well.
I wonder if this is just an okay time to use the coin here.
Just go Spider Bomb coin fireworks deck. You could.
So I'm not sure what the follow-up is that you're particularly scared of after that turn.
True. I think he wants to hold on for a bit longer. The Mechru just kind of contests the apprentice. There's not really a way Mage can deal with it that easily. But there definitely was merit to just going Spider Bomb coins fireworks deck, taking control of the board. This way you're kind of hoping that Alutemu doesn't develop too much, but the Mechru can kill off the apprentice, and then you can still do the same thing next turn.
Right. I guess, like, yeah, you can. The thing for me was, I was wondering, the Sorcerer's Apprentice enables some good turns for Alutemu, and also if you had a clear board and you had the bomb on, it means that Alutemu can't just play some kind of giant play into it as well.
Right.
So I feel like playing them out that turn actually kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So I don't know, FroStee choosing to play a little bit slower, I feel like this gives Alutemu a chance to do some other stuff here.
I agree. The 1 of Extra in hand, along with any 1-mana spell, lets Alutemu kind of develop quite a bit more, which also makes the Spider Bomb harder to utilize effectively because of the multiple minions.
And this turn just couldn't have happened.
If FroStee
and also FroStee would have a 3/3 and a 2/1 on the board.
Okay. Pyro can be cute, can help clean up some stuff. None of the magnetics are going to quite work here. So FroStee does have to go for the Spider Bomb fireworks tech.
And I feel this is way more desperate, right?
Yep.
Could have killed the 3/1 anyway.
With 1 proc of the Pyromancer here, you can kill off the X1s and then trade the Pyro into the Mechru, leaving just the 1/1 left on board. However, there is still a Spider Bomb attached to that Mechru, so that will go off too.
Whoa, okay, those were good draws.
Yeah.
Wow. If Arcane Intellect always gave you those 2 cards,
I think Alutemu should have hit face with a Vextro here first. I think he was hoping to just not lose the Vextro and then trade it off into the 1/1.
Yeah, kind of a strange one there, wasn't it?
It's either lose 3 damage or face or be able to clean up the 1/1. This way, if the 1/1's left over, it's kind of problematic. You want to go Elemental Evocation Cyclone here to just get some refill from the spells, especially with Giant in hand and the Conch Calling. This way you don't ping off the 1/1, it means something can be magnetized to it.
You could have froze it anyway though, right? As a
True.
backup
Yeah,
plan? Like,
you can still freeze
he
it.
had this play anyway, so I think because of that, it was, I feel, always correct to just put the 3/3. It does use up the Ray of Frost, of course, but hey, look at that, you got another one back. Ray of Frost Vaporize as well, along with that Scorch, is not half bad. That was a pretty good Cyclone from Alutemu.
Good haul. FroStee has to consider here if he wants to just develop onto the board or take the turn now to just go Missile Launcher, Venomizer. I know it's not cleaning up that much now, but it prevents development from Alutemu. I think he wants to hold on and kind of say, alright, you have a lot of cards in hand, let's see that Giant, and then I want to kill it. So Alutemu can play the Giant, Conch Calling, and the Scorch. Oh, he's playing this rather quickly. I would much rather he go Elemental Vacation, play a Giant for 2 mana, Conch Calling it, and then use the Scorch in conjunction with the Savage Striker or the Mana Cyclone to finish off the Mechru.
I definitely agree there. Like, what's the punish, right? You clear the board, you present in threats. That's how you win games of Hearthstone. Like, you stop your opponent having stuff, and then you kill them with the stuff you gain. Like,
even if you want to just do that and Ray of Frost instead and go face, but I really don't like that Alutemu is playing out the Giant.
What are you even holding on this evocation for? You just used one on a Mana Cyclone?
Yeah.
Alutemu doesn't have a second one in hand. He has 2 Mountain Giants. Like, why not?
This is exactly what you should be using it for. Maybe he's considering doing something else instead. But
everything else just feels like
feels
worse.
But even anything else, you'd still want to play the Giant out for a bit cheaper, just so you can either kill off the Mechru or Ray of Frost it. I'm really surprised to see this. Yeah.
So he's not going to Conjurers this turn.
Perhaps he wants to throw down the Khadgar and set up for a bigger Conj, but
you could do that next turn anyway, right?
Maybe he's scared of. been noting which cards have been in FroStee's hand. The Missile Launcher's been there for a while, and the Venomizer from the tracking turn, which was on turn 1. So perhaps he's scared of that and he's trying to bait it out.
But things like that, once they're baited, it's not like your cards in hand deal with it.
You do have the Conch Calling, but that's not the prettiest way to deal with it.
And then you -1 anyway, right? So
Yeah,
you -1
right.
Conjuring Calling in hand. I mean, it looks like a pretty straightforward turn to me.
You know, FroStee is considering, what if Alutemu is trying to get me to play this? The thing is, I mean, you can't just play...
Yeah, then you lose.
It's a game of
you
chicken,
just get beaten
right?
up by a single Mountain Giant.
Yeah,
then, right?
the problem with playing chicken back and forth is that when one player is hitting FroStee for 10 in the face, it's kind of harder to play chicken like that.
Yeah. It's like playing chicken, where you're on a bicycle and your opponent's got a truck.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
maybe I just veer out of the way.
Yeah, maybe I just bail on this one and just let him have the win. Yeah, I do like this from FroStee. I'm glad he thought about it. You know, considering plays is very important in Hearthstone, but also not overthinking things, I think, is correct as well. Like, get the job done, and then realistically, especially after seeing a Scorch, what does Alutemu actually have to answer this? And if it is the Conjurer's Calling, then, like, cool. You get to push some damage. Those are 6 drops in there. Like.
FroStee correctly setting up the Missile Launcher before the Venomizer to make sure that if Conjurer's Calling does come out, there are 2 6-drops that will be summoned. So with his Ziliax pickup, Alutemu can afford to take a hit from the Missile Launcher and then set up for like a Ziliax banana ping.
Right.
5, 6, 7, 8. The problem is that costs a bit more mana than Alutemu has to work with, so he could set up with a Ray of Frost to preemptively deal 2 damage to it. To the Missile Launcher, so that way next turn he can just go Ziliax ping, which does deal with it without having to use Conjurer's Calling. Alternatively, he could set up the Vaporize.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of future turn options here in Alutemu's hand, because even something along the lines of Ziliax into Splitting Image looks pretty good too. So, yeah. Gonna go for the Vape instead.
See if FroStee opts to play around that or not.
Funnily enough, my question is, do you even need to consider attacking with the 6/6?
I think with that secret up, you're slightly concerned. I know it was random enough of the Mana Cyclone, but the punish here, if it is Vaporize, is you probably just lose the game.
That's what I mean. Like, you don't need to attack as far as I'm concerned. I think you could just let this minion start just chugging away.
Sure. Like
even if there was an Explodinator this turn, proc the
fine.
2 bombs, 4 damage, hero power for 6. Yeah. It's definitely tough though. The Mekaru is a good card to try and deal with this secret.
I like playing the Mekaru, even though the Missile Launcher kills off the first half of it, and you're only left with a 1/1. Alutemu can pick it off, but then he has to spend the 2 mana to protect his Vaporize. Also, this does give FroStee some information as well, right? Let's say it's not Vaporize. All right, I forego 9 damage here, just on the off chance that it is Vaporize, and we'll see how Alutemu responds to this 1/1. If he thinks pinging this off with 8 mana is that valuable with 10 cards in hand, it's going to be something like Vaporize.
Or that's what he wants him to think, and it's not Vaporize at all, and he's baiting him.
That's possible. I mean, this is kind of the bluffing power of some of the Mana Cyclone cards, right?
Yeah. The funny thing now is, though, he could just Ziliax and then split an image if he wants.
Could.
And that helps. He can just Ziliax the 1/1, and then is that if you played Ziliax in a secret?
Well,
is that
if
too
you play
much
Ziliax
of a...
splitting image, you wouldn't want to swing in because the Divine Shield's gone. So even if it were to be swung into, the Missile Launcher would kill both of them, and even if you don't swing into it, the Missile Launcher kills it anyways.
Yeah. I was just thinking in terms of what you're trying to make your opponent think.
I don't know.
Because I think like Ziliax and a secret wouldn't overly make them think that it obviously doubles the amount of secrets. It's kind of a tough
I think Alutemu was thinking...
It's getting a bit too fancy, isn't it?
That's the thing. He's realizing it might be too difficult to try and set up to deal with this over too many turns, so he was going to Conch Calling it, but now he's thinking, all right, Rope's burning, I don't have actually enough time to do that, so let's just...
It's such a weird sort of check position from both players, isn't it? Because FroStee can't attack with this minion, because if it dies, he's in trouble, even though it's got like 3 1/1s in it, for example. But Alutemu, if he never does anything, then he
He will eventually
loses
right?
because he's taking more
3
damage
a turn,
yeah.
whereas FroStee's taking 2 if you count the missile launcher plus a ping if Alutemu were to ping him in return. So if both players played 0 cards for the rest of this game, FroStee will win.
It's just funny because FroStee's poison missile launcher is stopping FroStee keeping the minion to test the secrets. So
yeah, it is.
Everyone's kind of like just. It's like each player is playing against is stopping themselves do well here because they're not doing anything. They're not committing to an instant reaction.
This is a funny sort of stalemate.
That can help with a stalemate.
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't be the end.
So
end of the
you
world,
would sacrifice the Antonitis, just throwing it out there, but you get enough fireballs to where you can just fireball off the missile launcher.
I'm surprised he's not doing this.
I think he's going for the Ziliax clear.
Oh, okay.
So now you do have, so Alutemu did set up over multiple turns with a Banana Foon, adding some bananas. With the 2 Rare Frost means that the Ziliax can clean up this missile launcher, which is actually a massive deal for Alutemu because it means he can develop behind this now. FroStee doesn't have a lot of gas left over.
It means he can actually do something.
Right, like this still spawns the 3/1/1s on the Replicating Menace, but like fine. You have a splitting image up from Alutemu's point of view. Yeah, suddenly it's looking really good for Alutemu. FroStee's not out of it just yet, but the cards he has in hand, like we talked about, if you can't close out the game by turn 7, 8, and beyond, it gets very difficult.
He has active as well.
Yeah.
Splitting image is going to create another Ziliax.
Unity. Precision.
He's going to be on max health. And then there's still this Vaporize, which might not do anything fantastic if it kills a 1/1, but it's 1 less damage, and when all you're trying to do is survive long enough to present a big enough threat, 1 damage is pretty important.
So now Alutemu has the option to go Mountain Giant Conch Calling. And it looks like he will do that. Elementalification first makes it 5 mana so that he can use Cadner with it as well. He's seen the second Venomizer, so he's not scared of the second Venomizer, second Missile Launcher, which means this is just put your foot on the gas and go. I don't think there's anything that FroStee can do to come back in this.
Nope, he can only, at this moment in time, draw 1 card, and that's not going to be enough.
Alutemu's going to tie it up, 1-1.
Yeah, it's huge as well, because that's one of those weird, intricate moments where FroStee made the play of Missile Launcher and the Venomizer, which is a great play normally. It clears the board, allows you to keep pressure on, but that secret was huge because even if it was a bluff, which it wasn't, it was Vaporize, so FroStee did play around the correct secret, but the fact that the missiles hit your own minions and kill them, it means that you can't keep a minion on the board to test into the secret and throw it away. So it was kind of just negated each other there until Alutemu, as you mentioned, over the course of a few turns, did end up getting the job done. So everything's even now. Is Mage just going to take down another mech hunter this weekend? We're about to find out.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
Becoming an ongoing tale now, Mech Hunter versus Mage in the Asia Pacific region, and Mage just dominating it overall because it's just not been getting the job done. But this one is 1-1, so it's as close as it's going to get for these players, FroStee and Alutemu. And FroStee, especially after yesterday, he did have a small tech issue which definitely made him lose one of the games 100%, but he did end up losing the series as well, so FroStee I imagine will be even hungrier for this win to not make the week a total loss for him.
Right, yeah, after yesterday's issue, he did seem a bit upset, I saw on social media, so glad that he's back today and just ready to keep going.
Yeah, and there we go. We're going to get straight into it. No messing about here. 1-1, as I mentioned. And Alutemu, just so you remember, guys, as well. Also known as Machamp. You may remember if you've been keeping up with the Asia Pacific playoffs in the past couple of years, but has been a very steady representative for the Japanese scene and highly regarded, very well regarded within the Japanese community and the Asia Pacific community too. So he has moved his name over to Alutemu, but just so you're aware that that's who he is. He's a name that you may not recognize on screen, but a face you will definitely recognize.
Yeah. FroStee not hitting the two of the one drop Mekaru.
There you go. Yep.
But he does hit the frame bot, and he has 3 drops to follow. So the early pressure is there. I know a 1-5 doesn't look that threatening, but that can quickly become very dangerous with some magnetic mechs.
Yeah, and the most important thing for me is this: the Ursatron. I honestly feel is the one card that ties the deck together, and it's weird because it's not a flashy card. But draw is what you need. You need just enough mechs and draws to get the job done. And I think without Ursatron, the draws don't exist. You'd have to play like randomly like loot hoarders or something.
Yeah, you'd run out of steam a lot quicker.
Yeah, or you just don't have enough way more often in games to actually finish them up. So Ursatron, although it might not be the superstar in terms of flashy outcomes, with the big mechs that can be magnetized, but it does do a vital job in the in this deck.
I like the Explodinator over the Galvanizer Hero Power, or Galvanizer Spider Bomb from FroStee here. Just putting a bit more on the board. This does open up Alutemu's options, though. Rabble Bouncer can't come down. There is 7 damage to him down on the board, but like Rabble Bouncer Coin Conch Calling could set up Alutemu with a board that lets him contest what FroStee has. Could also be patient with it, too.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's always a fear of Spider Bomb, right? That's one of the cards also that makes the deck work because you have spot removal.
Yep.
But for me, I think I actually like the play of going wide. I want to see Mage players get way more aggressive when they have the opportunity to, and instead of saying, okay, freeze, defend until turn 10 and you might be dead anyway, get some stuff on the board
you need to
and
do
go.
something. Yep.
It's like I was telling you, I think yesterday when we were on the way back from the studio, I was testing, I think it's called Violet Spell Sword.
Yep.
In this type of mage deck, because look at the amount of spells you end up having, and sometimes it's just like a 4-mana 6/6, also along those lines, and that's like just a threat that at the moment doesn't exist. When you're against
the middle
mage
turns
deck.
doesn't have
Exactly,
there's not that much to do.
So it's just one more. I'm not saying it's good, by the way. I test a lot of random cards in decks. But it's just my point is I like the middling threats and getting aggressive when you can, because really your stuff is bigger than theirs, right? If the Conjuring Calls came out from Alutemu, then they're 7 drops. Those are scary.
FroStee attaching that Spider Bomb to the Goblin Bomb. No activator, so this should tell Alutemu that there's no Fireworks tech in FroStee's hand.
And this is something you know, I want your complete honest opinion on. Trash me or trash whatever, it's
Okay,
fine.
I'm ready.
But for me, the Conjurer's Calling this turn is better than doing a Cyclone turn.
Why not both?
Because do you know what a Frost Nova as well? I mean,
You have the Ray of Frost.
I'm down for both. All I mean is, there was a chance that there was, say, like a Cyclone into Nova option.
True.
And I think random spells are not as good as big minions in this matchup. I think you want to end the game.
I definitely want to see the Conch Calling come out, but I think I'm fine holding on to the second one just to get the Cyclone out there as well.
Yeah, if you do this and don't Nova,
Yeah.
then fine. You know, I'm
Sure.
like, if you can get spells and big dudes, sign me up. I was like worried that there might have been a slightly more defensive play, and it ends up being the usual turn of Cyclone.
Okay. That could be explosive.
That's some damage.
Yeah. Not relevant for quite a few turns, but 2 Pyroblast, it's 20 health.
I mean, most importantly for me, this is one of the few times we've seen Rabble Bouncer pay off in the past 2 weeks, I think, to be completely honest. Like,
Yeah, it
I
actually-
think this Rabble Bouncer is now, what does FroStee do? Die?
Hope
I
to draw
think.
Venomizer?
It's he's just gonna die, right? And also this 4/6 is huge. In case you don't know, and curse me, do you know the name of the card?
Underbelly Ooze.
Underbelly Ooze. I knew it was an ooze. I couldn't remember
That's fine.
the pre-name.
There's so many.
Basically, it's imagine a patron from back in the day. If it survives damage, it creates a copy of itself. The only difference is it's a copy of itself, so the damage dealt sticks onto the
Right.
next one and the next one. It's not
It's not a
quite as
fresh
powerful
one.
as the patron, but still, that's a 4/6 that whenever it survives damage, it creates another one and another one. So very, very quickly here, Alutemu can just kill FroStee. I'd love just something along the lines of just Nova Giant Face.
Yeah.
Just go.
I
just
think he
kill
wants
him.
to consider what happens if the Venomizer Missile Launcher comes down, because there have been some cards in FroStee's hand that have been there for a little bit. And if Alutemu has been kind of keeping track of that, he might think, all right, I still think it's correct to just go aggressive here and try to end the game, but it's something to consider at least. If worst case happens, how do I deal with that? Can I move forward from there?
I think the worry is, wait, what's in that goblin bomb on the left?
Spider Bomb.
It's a spider bomb, right? Okay.
You're not
just
too
making
concerned
sure.
about just the Spider Bomb, yeah.
But the worry for me is, I don't think it can hold Sea Giant, because if the Venomizer comes out,
It's never
then,
getting played.
Well,
Yeah.
all the minions die, so there's nothing anyway. So
True.
the Sea Giants, and if the Sea Giant's 100%, then I think the Nova in the face is 100%. Try and just 2-turn them.
Agreed.
You have the damage.
I like it.
Also, how does Ooze interact with the Venomizer missile launcher?
I think it dies.
So
But
it just
don't quote
dies.
me.
Okay, because technically it survives the damage aspect, because it just takes 1 damage, but then the poison happens and kills it. So I didn't know if one would survive because it took damage and spawned, but we might not even get a chance to see it, so it doesn't matter. And that's exactly Venomized, but
That's
it's
gonna be
not.
it.
and-
Frosty's locked
yeah,
out,
I mean, that's
and-
just it. And I loved the play from Alutemu. It was
Yep.
just, at first I thought maybe he could have actually played the Rabble Bouncer and done it on that turn, like you mentioned,
Right.
just to go a bit more aggressive straight away. Because the problem is, you start to look at that game, well, what if Rabble Bouncer was killed that turn? And
We
then,
have a different game at that point.
and then
yeah.
the game looks way, way, way harder for Alutemu. But because he could go on the offensive and go aggressive, he actually just, like Mech Hunter, yes, has Spider Bombs to answer one-offs, and has the Missile Launcher and Venomizer, but that's also a 2-card combo. So there is a middle gap that, there's a window you can get through there with a lot of minions at the right time to just push tons of damage. So congratulations to Alutemu. He goes 2-0 this weekend, and FroStee goes 0-2. So, one player feeling very good, one definitely not so. But again, congratulations to Alutemu. But we're going to be done for now. We've got plenty more matches coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.